Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I have to say it's quite a privilege here to be opening it also from our end. I have to say a special thank you, Pierre, and I can already say really compliments to you and your team for what you have put together here. The agenda, I think, is really impressive, and I have to say this conference here, but also your center is a real asset for Frankfurt. And it's an important asset that we really need. We need thought leadership. We, Deutsche Börse, we really see this as a strategic partnership, bringing together, as you nicely put it, academia, and then also the practitioners, as we would nicely call it. And I really think it is underlying our ambition that Frankfurt is the leading digital financial center in Europe. And these events today, I think, are actively contributing to this. Let me kick it off with a question to all of you, not the normal one of where's the Bitcoin price next year. Who believes that in 10 years from now, 50% of equities will be traded as tokens? Let me see. Oh, Jesus. Okay. That is quite a community of believers. And another question, who believes that in 10 years from now, 50% of money will be held as tokens? That is, I think you are all aware how brief 10 years as a period is. So I think that underlines we are here at an inflection point. And I would like today follow up on this, and I would like to share my view on three things, actually the current state of digital assets markets, the market structure shifts that I believe are most consequential also for us, and our role, Deutsche Börse, as a financial market infrastructure in this evolution. And I have to say, I'm well aware that I speak to you, many of you here, as a non-digital native in a room full of academia and digital natives. But I have to say, I'm a very fundamental believer that technology shapes our markets, and I also have a very personal reason for that conviction and belief. When I started at Deutsche Börse, I experienced firsthand quite a remarkable revolution at the time. And it stood basically on two pillars. The one pillar was introduction of electronic trading. Deutsche Börse was a real pioneer in that technology revolution. Electronic trading created unlimited remote access. And it was a shift that changed everything in the industry. But there was a second pillar to it that is very important. It was the Investment Services Directive. It was regulation. It was passporting of financial services in Europe, and only that regulatory change made it available across borders. So technology plus the right regulatory framework, that combination turned Deutsche Börse into a world leader. At the time, Eurex, the derivatives exchange here in Frankfurt, became the world's largest exchange within just 8 years, bigger than the CBOT or the CME, who were around for decades. And that is, I mean, you can probably sense it, why I'm very convinced, very believe technology shapes our business, and there is a new chapter to be written. That evolution is not at an end. Now let me turn to the first point that I want to speak about, state of the crypto industry. I think all of you will remember Bitcoin emerged from a very specific historical context at the time. It was the global financial crisis of 2008. And the Bitcoin paper, the white paper that was published that October, was not so much a technical document, but it was really a political manifesto. And its premise was trusted intermediaries had failed. Trustless cryptographic chains can replace them. And we all know what followed afterwards. 17 years of, one would call it, experiments, hype, crashes, also fraud, one has to say, overblown promises. I think it's best illustrated by the collapse of FTX. Yet, despite all these stress tests that we have seen, the underlying technology did not die. Rather, on the contrary, it is hardened and it attracted further investment all along until today. And I'm very convinced today digital assets have really arrived at a structural inflection point. And where are we? Let's look at a few facts. Still, cryptocurrencies dominate, and the global retail user base of crypto has grown to 700 million people globally, which is pretty impressive. If we look at stable coins, they just last year grew by 90%, now at a market cap of $290 billion, and payments is really the driving use case. Tokenization is still early, one has to say, but projected to grow more than 30-fold in the next 3 years. It's driven by both mutual funds, bonds, ETFs, who are leading the way. And also regulation is really catching up. Not only MiCA in Europe, but also in the US, we see an unbelievable push, creating also a more institutional-friendly environment. 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to attend the Futures Industry Conference in the US. And of course, one topic that was all around was prediction markets, right? A hype that would merit another conference like this to discuss. But the other topic that was all around was tokenization of assets, really. Both NASDAQ and NYSE announced new tokenization initiatives there. In that context, also DTCC is progressing, also tokenization of US treasuries. So you see really there that now traditional market infrastructure providers are not a relic of the past, and also intermediaries are not. Rather, on the contrary, they are now becoming the essential bridge of the crypto disruptive world and the institutional integrity that we have in the traditional capital markets. I'm convinced the future is a hybrid model. And that gets me to my second point. The digital transformation that we are talking about is not just merely about technology. I think the most important changes are around market structure and around our value chain in financial markets. And on a meta level, one could say DLT shifts financial infrastructure from a message passing architecture to a shared state architecture. That's I think, the essence, so let me repeat it. It is really moving from a message passing architecture, delivery versus payment, to something that is a shared state architecture. And it has the potential to compress execution, settlement, delivery, payment into just a single step. And let me give you 3 concrete examples of what that means in practice. If we look at settlement, bonds today take 2 days or 1 day to settle. In future, they can settle real time or within minutes. Clearstream, our CSD at Deutsche Börse, is fully focused to build the first global, fully digital CSD. We have already launched D7 as a platform and have issued over 60 billion euro in digital securities already. Second aspect, collateral mobility, intraday pledging and release of collateral through programmable smart contracts. JP Morgan's Kinexys network has already processed over 1.5 trillion US dollars. This way, freeing up balance sheet, we are offering HQLAX, who allows and facilitates intraday collateral movement real time. And then the third aspect that is widely discussed, 24-hour markets and trading fractions. Kraken, for instance, you have heard, has launched tokenized equities, X stocks, which lets you trade in sort of share wrappers, the top US stocks, 24 hours every weekday in any fraction you like. And actually, if one looks at the development, one could say the most consequential shift that is triggered by digital assets is also happening at the distribution layer. If we just think about what Kraken, what Coinbase, what Bitpanda, what others have built, there is a distribution shift where the wallet is becoming the new brokerage account. And whoever in the end then controls this customer relationship really controls the distribution. And there we see crypto-native platforms, digital native platforms are leading the race. But despite that direct access, that disintermediation that was always labeled DeFi, key elements of the value chain that we see, such as price discovery, clearing, settlement, but also custody, still maintain their value proposition as centralized features. I'm absolutely convinced of that. the value proposition of these elements just becomes stronger with scale. So where does it leave us? The winning model in the end will be combining retail flow with institutional depth, and it will be providing the bridge between the digital and the traditional world. And that leads me to the topic of trusted markets for institutional users. And I just would like at least to spend a few minutes on a topic that is often very under-discussed at conferences like this one, probably also because it is a bit uncomfortable. And the topic is market integrity. And it cuts very close to our sort of raison d'etre and to the core of what we are doing and why it matters. The ability to trade in a market where prices are fair, where manipulation is detected and punished, and where participants can rely on rules being enforced is, one could say, sort of the foundational premise of capital markets. And if we look at this standard, cryptocurrency markets continue to exhibit very significant structural deficits. And that's not sort of a general criticism of digital assets, but it is really, I think, a clear evidence-based assessment of market quality in cryptocurrency markets. And it is also an important argument why traditional market infrastructure is essential. And I would just like to give you one example. A Chain Analysis 2025 Crypto Crime Report identified over $2.5 billion of wash trading activity in crypto in a single year. And wash trading, sort of that is buying and selling the same asset to create artificial volume, is something that is explicitly prohibited in every regulated market. If we look at crypto markets, it is, one could say, really endemic. And I think you can continue the list. It's pump and dump schemes, it's front running, insider trading, spoofing. So the full set of market abuses that regulated markets took decades to take out. So one can say, I mean, the crypto industry cannot just have it both ways, to be claiming to build the infrastructure of the future while still tolerating market structures that would, I think, from our perspective, be illegal in many traditional markets. We, from a Deutsche Börse perspective, we are, of course, very used to operating surveillance systems, sort of identifying manipulation patterns and recognizing KYC, AML processes and other things. I think this is something that really underlines the need of institutional grade infrastructure and building a framework that creates trust for investors. And that gets me to the next topic of the regulatory inflection point and Europe's position in the overall race. If we look at the picture, really the regulatory picture has changed dramatically, one can say, in the past 12 months. In Europe, we have something that really no other jurisdiction in the world currently has. We have a comprehensive and harmonized legal framework for crypto assets. MiCA, as you all know, Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, provides the framework and provides a coherent, consistent set of requirements. It is still globally unmatched, and it is coupled with the EU DLT pilot regime, which allows sort of the regulated players to test DLT-based securities infrastructure. With the new MISP, the upgrading is on the way. And then there is America, and one can say the shift in sort of the US regulatory posture is breathtaking. I saw the CFTC chairman, I had the pleasure to see them, also the SEC chairman. The tone from the top has changed very, very fundamentally. The SEC withdrew now sort of almost all of their crypto enforcement actions. Genius Act has been published. CFTC launched a crypto sprint, allowing to launch sort of digital spot assets to be traded by regulatory exchanges. So America has moved from sort of enforcement focus to endorsement focus in extraordinary speed. And of course, America has quite some scale and capital. That is why I think we here in Europe, we really need to live up to our first mover position. We need to be fully focused. It is also a question of strategic autonomy for Europe. Who builds the digital rails of the future here in Europe? And that is something that we must take the lead in. So we should not sort of waste this moment. And that brings me to my last point here, our role as Deutsche Börse. We not only want to provide the bridge between the two worlds, we really want to shape it as a key market infrastructure leader in Europe. Our vision for Deutsche Börse is really to build the fully digital hybrid infrastructure, a trusted ecosystem that has institutional grade integrity. And it should be an ecosystem that really is capable of processing assets regardless of their technical form, so whether they are traditional securities or whether they are blockchain native tokens, all within a single liquidity pool. We are focused, we run a two-pillar strategy right now for Deutsche Börse. One is to integrate digital assets in all our core process steps across the value chain for Eurex, Clearstream, 360T, 360X, our data and analytics businesses. The second pillar is we are very focused on expanding into the cryptocurrency asset class. So Deutsche Börse provides native services in cryptocurrencies and stablecoins for institutional clients. That is our focus. And with that, we believe we build sort of the digital rails for any DLT-based financial instrument for the future. So the three main use cases that we are looking at is, first of all, cryptocurrencies, crypto finance, here also labeled, offers execution and also custody. Clearstream is the first CSD globally that offers crypto custody as a regulated CSD. The second use case for us is tokenized securities, and we have launched already the D7 DLT platform under the CSDR. It is compliant, and together with 360X, who can provide execution services, we have the full value chain. We already offer X stocks from Kraken on 360X. And then the third one, the last one, is digital money, stablecoins and CBDCs that we are looking at. We have partnered with Circle, but also with other players, with SG Forge, with AllUnity, to integrate stablecoins into our full value chain. And very notably, Europe is, of course, leading the way in central bank digital currencies. I saw Alex is on the list. You are there, sitting there. I'm sure we will hear more from you later on this. And we, of course, are very focused also as Deutsche Börse to work with the ECB, with BIS on these use cases where I think Europe has a huge opportunity. So our objective is really to make this model future ready. But for this, we need partners. It's building an ecosystem. We can't do that alone. We are very proud of our partnerships with Kraken, also with Bitpanda. Later, you will hear Carlo Kölzer from 360T and Dominic Bayer from Bitpanda. Bitpanda has built a great retail distribution in Europe, and we are very proud to work together with them. So in a nutshell, I think Deutsche Börse is one of the few traditional players that really offers a complete digital asset value chain already today to our clients. And I can really assure you it is a core strategic focus for us. With that, let me conclude. I think, as you heard, I really believe digital asset markets are at an inflection point structurally, and it requires commitment from all of us, from many of the players that are here assembled also in this conference, from market infrastructures, regulators, participants, and technology providers to build a full ecosystem of the future. And I think Europe really has still a first mover advantage in the framework that we are operating in. And I also believe Frankfurt can be the leading digital asset ecosystem in Europe. Let me thank again here Pierre for bringing together this conference with really top-notch speakers and practitioners in academia. I think it is really an opportunity to underline thought leadership, and we can very much, of course, benefit from the views that you have as academias. We as Deutsche Börse really want to lead this transformation and are very proud also to partner with you. And I wish you all a very good discussion today and many of the rounds here around the topic that is very exciting. I thank you very much for your attention.